Welcome back, Munchers. I hope you're excited because today we're going to learn Java. So put on your chef hats to get your hands dirty in the Eclipse coding environment. A quick disclaimer, any Java tutorial in this series still doesn't cover everything programming has to offer. We're only going to touch upon what we need to know so that we can become great at DSAs, because that's what we're all about. One last thing. If you find yourself frustrated about not getting Java immediately, understand that it took even the best of programmers a lot of practice and time to grasp it. That's why you shouldn't worry about rewatching this video several times and looking at the other videos that I linked in the description for more opportunities to learn as well. Let's get started. What is Java? Java is a programming language, much like the languages we speak today. English conversations, however, happen between people, while Java is used to speak to a computer. As we've mentioned before, computers are not smart machines. They follow a set of tasks based on inputs you give them. The way Java tends to convey these tasks is through defining objects with properties and operations. These properties are called variables, and the operation they perform are called functions. For the most part, the only thing we'll really need to know for DSAs is how to use functions to solve problems by making use of variables that store information. Now that we know the basics of what Java is, let's look at how Java is structured. Every Java project consists of packages, which operate similarly to how we use folders in Windows. Inside those packages, the files that we create are called classes. We define these classes with a name and structure them with an opening and closing curly brace. Anything that goes between these curly braces is inside the class. The package we're a part of is listed at the top. Next, classes are composed of functions, which we mentioned earlier as the operations that we carry out. Currently, this default project we've created has a function named main. Every single Java project you ever create needs to have at least one main function to run. This is where the program knows to carry out all the main sets of tasks. Next, we have statements that have been created for Java itself. System.out.println prints a line that contains whatever you choose within the parentheses. In this case, we asked it to print "Hello World." You might notice at the end of the statement, we added a semicolon. Every statement that you create has to have one of these to signify the end, just like a period at the end of every sentence in English. It'll take time to get used to this, but just hang in there for now. Printing statements will help you figure out bugs all the time, so it's really important to learn this. Besides that, you can add 2 double slashes at the starting of a line. This means the program will ignore whatever you write after the slashes on that line. We can use it to type whatever we want, and can be very helpful, especially when you're just starting out. Now that we've learned the basic structure of a Java class, let's look at data types and variables, which, remember, are the properties that Java uses to hold information. Let's say we wanted to add 2 numbers. The computer needs to be able to know how to store them and know that they're numbers. It seems fairly obvious to us, but remember, a computer needs to be told everything you want it to do. Therefore, we define whole numbers, which are also called integers, as the int data type. Then we name it whatever we want, such as my height, and set it equal to a whole number, like 5. I want to be clear here, this doesn't mean we're saying the variable equals 5. We're just storing 5 into the variable, or we can call it setting the variable to 5. We can make another one called your height and set it equal to 6. Finally, we can make a variable called our height, which adds both the heights together. You can just use the names which have saved the values instead of typing out the numbers. This may seem silly right now, but as we progress, you'll see the value of storing things in variables. You can print out variables without any quotes by their name. There are so many other data types for variables, but the key ones that we'll encounter besides integers are floats and doubles, which are decimal numbers, booleans, which are either true or false, chars, which are single characters in between single quotes, and strings, which are a set of characters in between double quotes. As we learn data structures, you'll see how they're stored as well, and we'll expand upon how we use these data types over time. We've covered the basic structure of a class and some data types and variables that are present. Now that we know what's in here, let's look at what we can do with them. We might want to run a line of code only if a certain condition occurs. This is where conditionals come in. Generally, we can set a condition with greater than, less than, or a double equal sign, which we have to use two equal signs for. Remember, the single equal sign is only used to set a variable, so a double equal sign is what we use for comparing if two things are actually equal. Let's take an example. We can define the boolean passed the test and set it equal to true. Remember, we're setting it here. We can check if passed the test double equals true, which means equals in this case, and print success. Let's run it. If we change it to false, it won't run this block, as you can see. So we can define an else, where we can print failure. You can actually simplify this further because it's a boolean by taking out the comparison. It's just a simple way of typing less but achieving the same result. How about another example? Let's combine some of the previous knowledge we've just learned. Int destination is 456. First trip is 37. Second trip is 419. Let's think of this as a real-world situation. If I've traveled 37 miles in my first trip and then 419 miles in my second trip, have I reached the destination 456 miles away? We can get the computer to solve this for us. If first trip plus second trip is equal to our destination, then we've reached. Else if, here we can put another condition, first trip plus second trip is greater than the destination, we've gone too far. Head back. Else, keep going towards the destination. You can see how these programs start taking shape as you add conditionals and variables together into the mix. One last thing about conditionals. We've only stuck to one condition so far, but if you want multiple conditions, then we can use something like a double ampersand to say and a double pipe to say or. The pipe key is usually located above the enter key in case you get lost. Let's do an example of that. We can say email valid is true, but password valid is false. We want both to be true to log in, so we check it with a simple conditional. If email valid and password valid, print login successful. Else if email valid or password valid, print invalid email or password. Else, which means neither of them are valid, we print this account does not exist. Lastly, I'll give you a practice assignment. I want you to make an integer variable with some value between 1 and 100. Based on the score, print A if you're above 89, B if you're above 79, and so on, similar to a grading system. Try changing the value of the variable to test the conditionals. We'll go over the answer to this in the next video. And that's it. Comment down below on how you feel about Java after this tutorial. Otherwise, thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw here, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you know when the next one's coming. See you next time.